Happy New Year from a very special bad influence. Not yet, Sean. This week, we'll be looking at the best and worst of last year.
We've got the best add-ons for the PC, including the virtual guitar.
We'll be looking forward to the top games on all the hot consoles. More importantly, we'll be revealing the worst games on all systems. Later.
Our star guests, the Shaman, will be explaining how they use the best music computer ever when they record, and we'll have our normal games reviews, but this week with some special celebrity reviewers.
Hi, I'm Nicola Quilter.
And I'm John Adam.
We're going to be reviewing 3 games on the show today.
And one of those is going to be Yoshi's Island on the SNES.
No, much later. If you were lucky enough to get a PC for Christmas, we present the Bad Influence Guide to the best things to do with it. First, here's Violet with the best art package we've ever seen.
It's called Art Dabbler, and it's been designed for artists rather than techies. So, instead of getting a clumsy mouse, you get a pad and a pen, and the screen's been laid out like a painting table. You can create paintings in all kinds of styles, from pastel still lifes like this, to pointless pictures like this one. Now, I'm no expert, but I'm going to have a go at doing a landscape watercolour. Now, I've done my preliminary sketch, and I need to put some colour in, but first, I'm just going to put one more hill in the background here. Now, I've set my pen pencil mode, so I should be able to, and that's a bit too bumpy. What I can do is actually flip my pen up the other way and just rub it out with the rubber at the other side. Select pen again. That should do it. Now I need to pick the paintbrush tool and choose a nice blue and start colouring in the sky. A bit of light blue there and a bit of purple over here for my storm clouds. Next I want some more blue for the river. Now, don't go away, this may look rubbish at the moment, but a bit later on, all will be revealed. It's going to look great by the end. Now, next I want to do my trees, I think. So I'm choosing a green for my trees. I'm leaving gaps there for the shadows of the trees, which I'll put in now with a darker green. It looks less flat. One last finishing touch before I start using my magic technique. Okay, the red of the roofs. Good, now this is it. Because it's watercolour, I can now choose this droplet of water and start smearing. And as you smear it around, you can see it's all just beginning to look a little bit more authentic and it's all taking shape. And what's really nice about this is that as you blend the colours together, they do actually mix as they would in real life. Start on the yellow now. Just tones it all down a little bit. Also, as you press more, the pad is pressure sensitive. So the more you press, the more water goes on. It's the same with any of the tools. If you're doing the paint, the more harder you press, the more paint goes on. If you're doing the pencil, it's the same thing. So it really is like painting with the real thing. It's excellent. Now, I'm nearly finished. You can see I've obscured this fence and I'm going to put the fence in. So back to my normal paint, choosing a nice brown. What I want to do here is try and get the texture of wood, so I'm just scrawling. But once I apply the water, you'll see that it'll look like quite a rickety wooden fence. So water, again, a little bit of that, a little bit of water, works wonders. Voila. Not bad for someone who failed art at school.
This is the best fun music package we've had a go on. It's called Virtual Guitar, and it's for budding rock stars or jazz musos. OK, great session, guys. Everybody take 5. Now, the original version came with a virtual guitar, as demonstrated by the lovely Sonya here, but the new updated version has a virtual pick, which kind of makes the guitar a bit redundant, really, Sonya, and let's face it, you and the band were going in different directions musically. So, yeah. This is how it works. Every time the pick hits the tennis racket, it sends a signal to the computer which plays the right notes, which is kind of useful because I have no musical ability at all. All I have to do is keep in rhythm with the band. And I do that by hitting the chords every time this red line passes over a green peak. Of course, if I get it wrong, which I do quite often, the band get ever so upset.
Man, you're putting in too many notes.
I thought they were my showbiz friends. The CD-ROM that comes with it is called Quest for Fame, and it's designed as a game where you have to work your way up to rock superstardom. When you've mastered a few songs, your agent books you a gig at a local club. If you get a good reaction from the fans there, you can go on to jam with a rather strange-looking blues band. The final crowning moment of your career is to appear on stage at the Humonga Dome with old and hairy American rockers Aerosmith in front of thousands of screaming fans. It really is great fun, and because it's a virtual pit, you can play it anywhere. On your leg, play it on Violet's ear, look. Oh, Violence and Mayhem. That reminds me. Here's Sonya with the best gore game for the PC.
And of course, it's Doom. But there's a great trend nowadays for link-up games, and the best way to play Doom is against other people. Up to 4 PCs can be linked together to play Doom as a deathmatch. And each player has their own colour. And you can see Victoria's grey character in Mr. C's screen just there. And Mr. C's green character in Victoria's screen. And the aim of the game is simply to kill your opponent more times than they can kill you. So grab that shotgun and go.
And finally, here's Violet with the worst ever CD-ROM for the PC.
It's called Karaoke Shakespeare, and it was a feeble attempt to bring interactive theatre to the home. The idea was the computer puts all the words up on screen and then reads them out, except for your part, because you can then become the techno-lovey and perform the words yourself. Now, I'm going to have a go at being the second witch in the famous witch scene from Macbeth. Here goes.
When shall we 3 meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain?
When the hurly-burly's done. Come on. When the battle's lost and won. Look, there's a spelling mistake. It should be W-O-N, not O-N-E.
That will
and it
be
sounds
air,
like the
the
programmers
fret of
recorded the
fire.
voices themselves and recorded it in a toilet, come to that, which is where this CD-ROM should be flushed.
No, later. Today's reviews are slightly unusual. Instead of looking at this week's releases, our celebrity review panel will be trying out some of this year's hot titles. First up is Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo, which is the eagerly anticipated sequel to the classic Super Mario World. You control Mario's dinosaur sidekick Yoshi in a bid to save the infant Luigi from villainous wizard Kamek. The game features gorgeous, colourful graphics, a range of imaginative baddies, and all the delightful oddities you've come to expect from a Mario title. Here's Nicola Coulter and John Adam, otherwise known as Donovan Luke from Home and Away.
It's been 2 years since the last Mario game, but it's definitely worth the wait, eh, Nicola?
I think so. Yoshi has to make his way through 6 worlds with Mario on his back. Each world has 8 areas.
You'll find a host of coins and other items, and if you find them all, you get to enter the bonus area.
Yoshi has more weapons than any other Mario game, which is great because there's tons of baddies for you to kill. He has a big tongue which he can whip out, grab other enemies, swallow and make into eggs to fire at other enemies.
There are some really cool power-ups which allow Yoshi to change from a dinosaur into a tank, a helicopter, and what's the other one? Oh, yeah, a train.
Wow.
This game is a real corker, right? And it proves that 16-bit systems are still alive and kicking.
This game's got it all. Fantastic graphics and great gameplay.
And the celebrity scores for Yoshi's Island, both Nicola and John gave it a resounding 5.
And Yoshi's Island should be out by the end of the month. Actually, 1996 promises to be an exciting year for video games. PC owners will be salivating at the prospect of the stunning HMS Carnage, a game set on Mars and featuring strange, steam-driven spacecraft. The impressive racing simulator Formula 1 Grand Prix 2 is out at the end of the month, and Saturn owners will be looking forward to slick, futuristic racer Vertigo, and hopefully a conversion of Fighting Vipers, the brand new arcade beat-em-up from the team behind Virtua Fighter 2. On the PlayStation, the stunning atmospheric adventure, Alien Trilogy, will be clamouring for your attention, together with Tekken 2, the sequel to the best beat-em-up ever. And then, of course, there's the Ultra 64. Some of its most promising games are updates of classic SNES titles, like the stunningly 3D Mario 64, and perhaps the most wanted of all, the 4-player Super Mario Kart R. So, something to look forward to, not yet.
Not yet, but soon. This is an Atari ST, one of the first 16-bit computers. As we're doing the best and worst this week, we thought we might do the best and worst uses of an Atari ST. The worst use certainly has to be as a home games machine. There are very few good games for it. The best use of it, though, is as a music computer because it has a special musical interface called MIDI built in. The Shaman are well known for using computers in their music. Victoria's here to tell us how and why. Welcome.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. I recognise the Atari, but what else have you got up here?
Well, what we've got is, this is our conductor and this is our orchestra. We've got a couple of samplers, and one of the things that's really good about a sampler is that separation.
Well, that's your voice.
That's my voice. But if we go into the program...
So that's a sample of your voice that we just heard.
That has been changed rhythmically. So instead of going, the separation, it's just doing a little rhythmic thing. One of the other things that's great about MIDI sequencing is, let's just say, for instance, that we want to change something on the piano riff. Previously, it was changing 16 beats per measure, which doesn't necessarily sound very good for our purposes.
No, put it back the way it was.
Yes,
like
okay, all right, Andy. And it's back to normal.
Back to normal. Okay, so show me the bit where you have that little keyboard and you can move all the notes around, because that's really interesting.
Okay, let's say that we want to look at the piano riff that we just played, right? Which is, we go into Edit, go into Key, and lo and behold, the computer shows you everything that's being played. And these are all the notes that the computer is playing, and then you have a little miniature keyboard right there that tells you what notes are actually being played.
Doesn't it make the music sound like a bit robotic and sort of similar and samey using a computer?
Well, and you have to say that earlier on, one of the problems with technologically produced music, as the shaman like to call it, is the fact that it sounded so perfect that it didn't sound human.
Yeah.
With some of the newer, more advanced programs, and just like I just showed you there, you can just fine-tune it ever so slightly so it doesn't sound so perfect.
Well, your single is great, the new single, and if you want to check that out, join us at the end of the programme, because the Shaman are playing us out. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy.
And in fact, last year was the 10th anniversary of the Atari ST. It was also a very important year for video games with the coming of the super consoles. Here's a bad influence guide to the highs and lows of 1995.
January, and the year kicks off with glitz and glamour at the Computer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, where the Virtual Boy is unveiled, increasing the ever-growing amount of hardware designed to make you look stupid. New Super FX chip carts like 3D combat game FX Fighter and Starwing 2 make their first appearance. Mysteriously, none of them have been seen since.
February, and video games go to Parliament. After 6 months' research into whether or not games are overpriced, the investigation concludes, yes, they are. How helpful and useful.
March and the European Computer Trade Show hits London. Most people get their first glimpse of the Saturn. Of course, we had it on Bad Influence 4 months earlier. And Heart of Darkness, a new PC adventure with stunning graphics and cartoon gameplay, is seen for the first time.
April. Nothing at all happens in April. Zippo, zilch, zero.
Things pick up in May, however, with the first appearance of M2, a new add-on cartridge for the 3DO. It features game demos like this, with graphics to cry for. And techies reveal why girls like Tetris. Apparently, when we play, our brains release huge amounts of endorphins, the natural chemical responsible for passion. These, mixed with the females' supposed craving for organisation, make Tetris a big hit with the girls. It must be true. The science dudes say so.
In June, The Darkening, the newest and most expensive sci-fi game ever, begins filming at Pinewood Studios in England. The game costs an amazing £4 million to make, not to buy.
Big news in China in July, the SNES launches. Over here, the first super console, the Saturn, appears in the shops. However, non-techies are reduced to tears when they discover that with the lead supplied, it'll only work on TVs with SCART sockets. Supplies of the leads for ordinary TVs dry up quicker than a puppy on the backseat of a Peugeot.
August. Doom playing is banned in offices all over the world, and the term cyberskiver is coined to describe people who spend too much time playing games at work.
September, and the most important week in the whole video games year. Bad Influence starts. Oh, and in London, there's some new console called the PlayStation, launched with tons of new games. Apparently, they offload about £9 million worth of the things in 3 days. And despite all our Bad Influence review warnings, Primal Rage tops the games charts. File it in the bin.
October. Killer Instinct is cancelled for the Ultra 64, but amazingly comes out on the SNES.
November, and the Ultra 64 fails to get launched in Japan. It slipped more times than a tap-dancing centipede on a banana skin. However, Bad Influence is treated to a preview of the machine in Tokyo, and top games for the console are scarce, but crowds are amazed by the, well, amazing Super Mario 64.
And finally, it's Christmas, and Virtual Cop, the 3D gangster blaster on the Saturn, is just one of the top games vying for your cash. Others are the incredible-looking Star Wars game, Rebel Assault 2 on PC, and the worm-tastic mate, Earthworm Jim 2 on Mega Drive and SNES. Youch! What a year!
Sean, now!
So what's juggling got to do with computers? Well, this is Juggling Master, one of many programs available to help professional jugglers like Sean invent new ways to juggle. You type in numbers to represent patterns and the computer shows you what they will look like. Now this is the simplest pattern of all, known to jugglers as a 3-ball cascade. And as you can see, Sean's doing it rather well. But the real aim of the game is to try much harder patterns like this one, the 7-ball cascade, so you can see what it looks like. Now this is actually quite hard to do, but Sean's going to give it a go. Yeah! You can also use the software to figure out whether certain patterns are possible, like this one, which we've decided to call Sean's Mess because it involves low balls and high balls, very complicated. And he's doing it. Now that pattern's not been tried before, has it, Sean?
Well, it has, but we worked it out using the notation on the computer, and it turned out with this beautiful pattern.
It's great. Of course, the computer can come up with patterns that are theoretically possible, but physically unlikely, like this one, the 35-ball cascade. Care to try that one, Sean?
I don't know what all the fuss is about. I've been practicing with one ball, and it's dead easy. And now with some more reviews of this year's games, our celebrity reviewers.
3, 2, 1, go!
Ridge Racer Revolution is, surprise, surprise, the follow-up to the renowned Ridge Racer. It features more high-speed racing action with the addition of a rear-view mirror and some spectacular new tracks. The game also has a link-up option, allowing for some frantic 2-player duels if you have another PlayStation, another TV, and another copy of the game, that is.
Okay, the cars can be quite difficult to handle at first, careering all over the place until you get the hang of the controls. But once you work out how to take the corners, it's a really spectacular ride.
Before you get in the driver's seat, you have to choose a track and a car. There are 3 tracks and 4 cars to start with more becoming available the more you win, or if you cheat.
This is the hardest track in the game, speeding through all these hairpin turns and narrow, windy roads. It takes a lot of concentration, Nicola. And the other drivers are really aggressive, so the rear-view mirror is especially useful so that you can block them from overtaking you. Yeah, you can view the race from inside or outside the car, but I prefer being inside because the sensation of speed is much better.
One of the things I don't like about this is when you hit something like another car, concrete wall, even a grass verge, you just bounce off no matter how fast you're going.
What really makes the game is the 2-player mode. Humans are always the most competitive opponents, and beating a friend in the final lap really gets the adrenaline going.
When you finished all the tracks in first place, you get to race them backwards like we're doing here. Your opponents are a lot tougher in this mode, especially in time trial, while the ultra-fast Black Devil car makes an appearance.
Racing through spectacular scenery at immense speeds is really appealing. The game is good.
It's a great racing game, especially for 2 people.
And the celebrity scores for Ridge Racer Revolution, amazingly, 5s again.
Ready, go!
Virtua Fighter 2 is the most wanted video game in history, with orders of over 1.5 million in Japan alone. There are 10 fighters to choose from, including a teenage kung fu master and a rather unsteady 83-year-old. Each fighter has over 100 moves, and the 3D animations are fluid and spectacular.
The first thing you notice about this game is its speed. It moves twice as fast as Virtua Fighter, and it looks a lot better.
All the fighters' moves are controlled by just using 3 buttons, block, punch and kick, which makes the game really easy to get into.
And the fighting is really realistic, using real punches and kicks rather than unrealistic fireballs and teleports.
Each character has their own fighting style. I'm fighting against Wolf with my favourite character, Shun. But Shun has made he's got a rather odd method of fighting, which involves swinging from a bottle in his belt and then falling over a lot. He's quite fit for his age, and he can fight standing on his hands, or when the going gets a bit rough, he can fight from a sitting position.
There are lots of nice touches in this game, like the way fighters' heads follow their opponents' movements. I especially like the way you enter your name in the high score chart in ranking mode by beating up the letters.
The graphics are great, the action is fast, and the characters are really entertaining.
It's the best beat-em-up I've ever seen.
And the celebrity scores for Virtua Fighter 2. You're never going to believe this. 5s.
Virtua Fighter 2 should be out later this month. You'll have to wait a little bit longer for Ridge Racer Revolution. By the way, thanks to John and Nicola for taking time out for their pantomimes to review those games for us. Nicola's in Cinderella at Stockport and John's in Beauty and the Beast in Ashton-under-Lyne. And speaking of beasts, what about the worst games? What about the turkeys? We now present the Bad Influence Guide to the worst games for all systems.
Although they may not have been out for long, the Super Consoles have already got their fair share of stinkers. Digital pinball on the Saturn smells worse than a sweaty salmon. So, the bin beckons. And Street Fighter the movie on the PlayStation is pretty putrid too. These black CDs may look great, but this one's better off in pieces.
Want a good racing game for the Jaguar? Then don't even think about Checkered Flag. You'd be a laughing stock if you bought this rancid racer. Demolition Man was the 3DO Booby Prize, a dreadfully dull shoot-'em-up. Into the acid rain, back with you.
And if you haven't got a Super Console, never fear, there are some turkeys lurking around on the old systems too. What about the positively putrid Rise of the Robots on the SNES? Then there's the worst Mega Drive game for ages, the bandwagon jumping, dreadful beat-em-up Shaq Fu. Only one thing to do with games like that.
That's it for this show and this series. We end with the Shaman playing their new single, Heal the Separation. Goodbye.
See ya.
Look out for the outtakes. Bye-bye. There's the handle, and oh look, there's the paintbrush.
And there's a dog here.
Yep. So, that's one for Dennis Norden.